If I'm, if I can, let me get your attention, please. Thank you, everyone, for coming back, and members again. Thank you for your dedication, your hard work. I know it's been a long day. I kind of took a pulse test that do we have enough energy to do this, and the answer was yes. So let's continue our work from this morning and see how much more we can get done. Representative Wade, do you mind opening us in prayer as we like?
Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, and thank you for all the many blessings. Thank you for allowing us to be here to continue this work, especially on behalf of the children of this state. And we thank each member for their diligence and their care. Bless this chairman, this committee, and all that we do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Representative. Let me state this, members, or to the members here, too. We've got folks that are doing a great job out in front of us, too. So you get the opportunity, build some friendships and communicate with these people. There's been a lot of good communication from the folks, not only that are sitting out there, but those that might be watching on TV. So thank you for your efforts. We have, again, as I said, your first believer here, members. We've got some very important stuff here, and we've got a timeline that we're trying to meet. Let me state that we made an amendment this morning to a bill, and it was all dates. So before we turned anything into rules, we went to reading, paying attention to what we did. I personally felt we moved pretty quick this morning on that, wanted to take some time to look over those. So we're going to ask Representative Ballard for you to come back up, talk about the date changes we made. So we did not present what we voted out, members, to rules. So she has come up with what I would consider a better date timelines here. So, Representative, if you would, I'll cut the podium mic on. Do you mind covering those changes with us as we discuss this, and then we'll entertain a motion to approve from there. So go ahead, please.
Okay. I'm going to try to go in line order rather than date order to help y'all along.
Yes, read your LC number you're working from, so we're sure to look at it.
LC 491410S.
Thank you.
Okay. So line 73, that should be January 1, 2024.
Got you.
Line 80, January 1, 2024. Line 85, July 1, 2024. Line 97, August 1, 2024. Line 118, April 1st, 2026. Line 137, December 1st, 2024. Line 164, August 1st, 2024. Line 182, August 1st, 2024. And then line 212, July 1st, 2025. Ledge Council and I feel like this puts everything in just the most logical order.
Okay, thank you, Representative. Questions of these dates? Changes? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve. Got a motion by Townsend, second by Ms. Glaze. Representative Glaze. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you very much, Representative. Good job. Keep that running. Good job. All right, there we go. Chairman Houston. I'm in Georgia, right?
Right.
We are, if you would, we have had discussion on your bill in subcommittee. As you know, we have brought it before us as a safety item. There was discussion and participation on your bill then. I believe the members are very current on it, but read your LC number for me and we'll
My
go.
LC number is 491397S.
Yes, ma'am, that's
And-
what we have.
All right, and this authorizes and encourages local public schools to do mapping of their building and of the of areas around the building, to do mapping in the proper way that it was approved for by the military. And one of these reasons we have that, we have so many needs for EMTs, emergency people, and God forbid if they had a crisis situation that involved a hostage takeover, so they could get to the right place. And we have maps that are done by the architects, but so many of them architects' designs are real pretty. You know, they're just real pretty. And this goes the code of True North. And in the military form and in the mapping world now, if you want somebody to follow a map, it's got to be True North. And there's a grid overlay on this, and it'll look something like this. I know you can't tell. So if you and all this does, it makes the map current. And these maps, the process on the maps has to coordinate with your police department, your EMTs, your ambulance drivers, and even Georgia Emergency Management Association, the State Patrol. And if you have a crisis, even an ambulance needing to come to a school, you can drive up, the ambulance driver will have that map on his cell phone. And this does not require any special person to do it. We do have people in this kind of business, but if you have somebody that's real good in art, a real good computer person, they can do it. There's no intellectual property on this. There's no patent on it. Anybody could do this. I couldn't do it, but I'm sure there's somebody that knows something that they can do a telephone could probably do it. But it's just, you go to a school somewhere and they'll say, go to the kindergarten room. Well, nobody knows where the kindergarten room is, and this will tell you exactly where to go. Now, there's schools in Georgia that are already doing this. Gwinnett County's doing it. Hall County's doing it. White County's in the process. Several counties that are already doing it. But it's really important that you coordinate with the school software and the emergency management software so they don't have to buy anything. Because we feel like if you make the police department buy something, so many of them aren't going to do it. And this can really save time and lives. We had this morning, he didn't get a chance to testify, but we had Mr. Butch Ayers, and he is from the Georgia Police Chiefs Association, and he wanted to testify on it. And he had been a policeman for, I've forgotten how many years he said, and he had been on the sniper team here in Atlanta for 22 years, I think he said. And he said this would have been so beneficial for him had he had it. And I really think that this will save lives. Now, there is a stipulation in here that once a year you have to do a walkthrough. And the walkthrough can be done by the EMTs or your emergency person in your school, because we have changes in schools. And I know I was on the school board for years, and we always adding on to schools. Or sometimes you might have a room that might be an art thing. The next time it's a classroom. And you might change it during the year, and all those things have to be changed and be current and up to date. And it's $3,500 a school, but we're working on you don't have to. It's not mandatory. And if you change your maybe you build 2 or 3 rooms onto it and have to add to it, to have them redo it is $500 when you're at a school, and they'll come and do the walkthrough and add on to it. But you can do it yourself if you're just real smart. Any questions?
Let me jump to that if I can.
Okay.
Chairman Houston, great bill. Thanks for thinking safety for us on children and looking these type of products up and opportunities. I I see one question for you, kind of
Okay.
ready to roll, and that I think this has been well vetted as you have talked to quite a few here. Let's start with the first one I saw, number 11. Representative Townsend.
Thank you, Chairman Irwin. Question, I know we talked about during committee about changing the implementation date. Is that in there?
Yes, I'm sorry, we did change the information. I think it's written in there. Let me see what
Implementation.
line.
That's what I'm looking for now. I couldn't find it.
Let's see. I think we changed it to July 1.
49, is that correct? No later than September 1st.
2023. No, because we talked about, I think it was going to be either June 30 or July 1, 2024
Yeah.
to complete it. Yeah, at the local level. Well, if we don't mandate a timeline, they won't do it.
Representative Townsend, it is a May.
I think what we
Rather than a shall.
mandated was for the State Board of Education to have their stuff done about a certain timeline.
Well, I'm looking your two dates. Representative Townsend, look at the two dates that are on page 3. No
Page
later
3.
than August 1st, department shall provide a written report to the State Board of Education. You're not talking about that one.
No,
Is that
49. Correct.
No later than September 1st.
Okay.
And on May 1st, they have to,
I guess what I'm asking is the date the school systems have to start doing this type of safety.
I didn't think we required a date that the school has had to do it.
No,
Or
I don't
systems.
see a date in
I
here.
don't think we required a date that the schools have to do it, because we've got schools already doing it, and we've got some schools that won't wait.
No, I understand. I was just thinking there was a push to try to get this to every school in Georgia.
Yeah. But I
By a
think
certain
the-
timeline.
I think the school, the thing was that for the Department of Education to have things ready for best practices and things, I think.
Yeah, let me, I
Okay.
think we
Okay.
can answer your question, Representative. Hold on right here with Vice Chair Hilton.
Yeah, Representative.
It's on.
Representative. Hello.
Hit the gray button on the back of your mic. There you go. Nope, you hit it one more time. There you go.
Try it now.
Representative. Okay. Yeah, Representative Townsend. I think the bill's been changed fairly significantly since the first time we saw it. In that, I think the first iteration was calling for the actual implementation of all of this by specific dates. Now, really, if you look at kind of that page 3 there, most of it says kind of the department shall develop best practices and kind of a report advising these schools on how to implement this. So there's really no kind of hard. I think the first iteration of this was a pretty firm. They shall implement this. Now it's
No, I don't think it's ever been a shall in there.
yeah. It's, I think the substance of the
I
bill.
don't think we ever required every school to do this from the start.
Maybe there's a version I saw, but yeah, that's
It
not
might
this.
have been one
it's not
version, but the
there now.
original version did not require it.
Yeah.
And it does not require them now to do it.
That's right. That's
But I
right.
surely feel like if they don't do it, they're gonna get the PTO and everybody around them to get on them.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So basically, this is if let the State Department come with the guidelines, and then if we want to do it, we can.
Yes.
Then I'm not sure why we need to do it. Yeah, I mean,
Why do you need to do it?
well, you can go to
need take-
GSSA. I'm sorry.
You need to do it to protect the students. And I think you need to do it because I think parents, grandparents would want this. You don't want to have a terrorist attack on your school and have it like somebody comes up here and doesn't know what to do and where to go and have to go to the office to ask where the lunchroom is.
Oh, no, I totally agree with you about that. I think every school needs it. I love the way you did the mapping. I think it's great. The grids, I think that's so important. I need to ask it a better way, so I apologize. What I'm trying to say is if it's not going to be mandated to school systems or schools
Well,
where it's their choice, it's kind of like, couldn't you just go to the GSSA convention or Gale convention and and
Well,
sell
I
your
think
software
your
there.
chairman did, but no, you might could, but we've got to have these guidelines. If you do it, they've got to have it going north. We've got to have, everything has to be consistent.
Representative
Okay.
Townsend, this also could be done in-house, as she was stating there
Okay.
too. So there's
And it's
urging there.
Everything's got to be done the same way. Because a lot of times you might have police, like in Gwinnett County, how many town policemen do they have, police departments do they have? You might have a big thing and call in all 9 city police departments. So everything's got to be the same. And it's on their cell phone so they can just look and see where to go. But you
Okay.
also have to have it in the printed form too.
Let
because-
me get to a few more of the questions, and we'll keep working around the room. Representative Carter.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chair Lady. I had an opportunity to see, a sample of what the mapping looks like, and I think it's a great idea. But my question is always, who's going to pay for it? And I think you were working on some appropriation. Is that going
We're
to?
working on some appropriations, and some people have come up with some ideas I didn't think of before
Okay.
we did this. That somebody's come up with the idea that it might be one department that has some money, we might could do it as a grant program. But we've
Okay.
got to get this
Okay.
passed. So, but I'm not sure. But we're looking for some money to go in, and I'm not sure what department they're going to put the money in.
Gotcha. I
But we're
understand.
looking for the money.
I absolutely support it, and I appreciate you doing this. I just didn't want us to give the systems another unfunded mandate.
It
and
is not a
it's not a
mandate.
mandate.
It
right.
is not a mandate.
It is not.
It's not a mandate, but it's necessary.
It's not a mandate. It would be necessary. I mean, you can have a cake auction and pay for it, or whatever the parents want to do. If the school won't pay for it, I'm sure the parents and grandparents are going to want this.
Yep, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Let's go to number 15, Floor Leader Wade.
I appreciate the chair lady bringing this. First, I want to just clarify one thing that you did a good job of explaining and cleaning up, and that's lines 82 through 84. Public schools and local school systems shall not be required to purchase or integrate new or additional software platforms or applications in order to develop or access this. So I did not have a full understanding of what that meant at the time, and I appreciate the explanation for the committee's purpose. Lots of schools already have some security software or security devices, like an immediate alert that a teacher can have on their person if something were to happen. And if a company that wants to provide this service, they would not be allowed to require you to bundle and be forced to buy another piece of
No.
integrated technology that your other technology is currently serving. So it would ensure that they would not be forced to do that. And I do want to remind the committee of two things that this House has already done. And I know the Appropriations Committee meeting is going on right now. But number one, the governor's bill that I carried, the School Safety Act, this is, I think, will be a complementary piece of legislation that will help while they're going through those school safety plans, while they're planning their incident response drills. This will actually inform and probably make that process much more, it'll bring efficacy to that. The other piece is this House adjusted the governor's request and increased it to $60,000 in school safety grants. Those funds, or even local ELOS dollars, or philanthropic groups, the Rotary Club, Kiwanis, would be able to engage in raising those dollars should a school system choose to do it. And I think because of the way you've written it, once there's a report done and we see how many have adopted, I think based on my experience in school, and I'm sure the chairman would agree, lots of school systems will wait and see how this works with others, which is why I think the May is important. But I think you'll end up seeing a high adoption rate over the next 2 to 3 years once they see that it all blends with these, what I would say, cousin legislation bills. So anyway.
Well, Savannah and Chatham County is doing it right now.
We'll take one more question here. Representative Townsend.
Yes, sir. Just to follow up if I can. And Madam Chair, let you know I love this. I love this bill, as in the theory. When you came to my office, I was like, you guys are great. I'm glad you looked at this. It's really positive. I guess I'm still trying to work around if it's school system X, or let's say somewhere in South Georgia, has a school safety plan and they have their own maps. I'm not even saying it's true north. Do they have to follow these guidelines for their school safety plan at least?
No, but they have to follow these guidelines if they want to be connected up and have it connect up to all the Georgia Emergency Management, the State Patrol, the GBI, everybody that's going to have this.
I understand. If I can
They
ask
had
a
to get-
follow-up question.
Because they couldn't go to the school. It wouldn't be on there. They wouldn't know where to go.
I understand. And follow-up question is, this will be my last one, I promise.
Okay.
I guess if it's not required, I'm not sure why we need a bill. That's the only thing I was asking, respectfully.
Well, you need a bill
'Cause
so
I
it'll
love
be-
this. I
it'll
really
be-
do. I
it'll
love
be
it.
uniform. It's got to be uniform. And somebody could say, we've got to be, because a lot of, agencies in Atlanta are getting this. I mean, the State Patrol, the Georgia Emergency Management. It's got to be something they can follow. They can't go down there if they don't have a map with a grid on it and know where to go. But if you've got somebody in your school that's good in computers, they can design their own map.
Oh,
We
I
just want it
agree.
we want to say it's got to be uniform.
I understand. I was just wondering about the system who chooses not to do it.
Well, if they choose not to do it, they just don't do it.
Okay.
Okay. I'm hoping I know what this one's about. Number 12, Representative Cox.
Okay.
I like it, but here's the deal. Our last copy that we went over, it was page 3, and it was lines 42 through 48, and this was LC 491387S. So it was the previous copy to
The
this.
previous one copy that they made over there, the man didn't do what we told him to do.
Okay, so but that was
Which one you see, if you saw that one, I don't know. There was so many floating around. I don't know which one you're talking about.
I understand. So, and I'll, and this is relevant to what he was discussing. On this particular copy, it references lines 45 and 46, provided and made available to all appropriate local law enforcement agencies and other emergency management agencies as soon as practicable, but not later than July 1st of 2024.
Which one? Are you reading on the LC we're passing now?
This is the previous one that
We aren't looking at the previous one.
I'm aware of that, but one of our discussions in the previous meeting was the concern of giving a deadline date, which he was discussing, and I was looking for the same language, and I didn't see it. So I'm trying to understand.
I don't mean to be short with y'all, but I've got a compensation hearing with a man that's been in prison for 24 years and was not guilty, and they're trying to decide whether he gets some money, and I can't keep my mind on this very long.
Understand.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Representative, you were just worried about the dates of
The
starting
dates.
to implement it?
It was trying to put a deadline so that it was completed by a certain date, and now then there's nothing. It was, I thought as well, that we were going to have a deadline date to make sure this was implemented across the 2,100 some odd schools. And I don't see that here. This reads quite differently than the previous that we had.
We can't have it implemented if some schools don't want to do it.
I understand, and I understand what you're saying. I'm just going off of what our previous, I'm working off the previous document to what's here now, and it just reads differently than what we had. That's all I'm saying. This is very different than what we had in the subcommittee.
Representative,
Well, I tried to make the changes as subcommittee that y'all asked for, and I worked with the chairman, and we
Yep.
tried to make the changes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the only date I'm concerned about is the date with my wife tonight. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to do pass.
I hate to
okay.
run, but I got to go.
It is the appropriate time.
All right,
Thank
thank
you, Chairwoman Houston. It is the appropriate time. Make your motion again, please.
I'll make a motion to do pass.
We got a motion to do pass from Vice Chair Hilton and a second from Wilkinson. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. That'll pass then. Congratulations there. Let's hope we can get that through. Healthy debate. That's always good. Healthy debate. We're going to continue to keep rolling. Let's see here. I believe we're on to House Bill 506. 5:06, Secretary Earhart, if you would come to the podium. Secretary Earhart, if you would read your LC number for your bill, and then also don't forget to introduce who else you have
That
with
is
you up
right.
there.
Thank you. We are working off of LC 491363S.
Wait a second, hold on. 49.
1363S.
Yep, we have a different LC number here.
Why do I have the one? Okay. Just want to make sure
She had a,
this is right. Forgive me. I do have the wrong. Yes. Forgive me. I'm sorry. That is correct. And I am sorry. Yes, Mr. Chairman, this you do have the correct one, 1396S,
okay,
which would contain the amended, the friendly amendment that you made.
okay, there we go.
There
That's
we
the
go.
one we are
I
working
apologize
from
for the confusion.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And I know it's a late hour and it's been a long day, and I just want you all to know how grateful I am that you're here today at this hour to hear this, what I think is a very important piece of legislation. I'd present to you for your consideration HB 506. Members of the committee, last year, about this time, Speaker Ralston formed a study committee on accreditation, and I had the privilege of serving on that committee alongside Chairman Irwin. We also had Chairman Dubnik, Chairman Corbett, and Representative Maynor. You know, prior to that study committee, I have to admit, I didn't know a whole lot about accreditation. I can tell you that a lot of my constituents didn't know a whole lot of accreditation. When the subject matter would come up, or I would ask folks about it, you know, they would often say, well, I believe my child's school is accredited. I'm not quite sure who accredits them or what's involved with that or why it's important, but it sounds important. Interestingly, in the ensuing year, little over a year, I've learned quite a bit about accreditation, and it's given, I think, this body an opportunity to take a look at it as well, maybe turn over some rocks and ask some questions that may not have occurred to us before. Nearly all public schools, as this committee probably well knows, nearly all public schools in Georgia are accredited by either Cognia or the Georgia Accrediting Commission, GAC. And some schools actually have dual accreditation. They have both. And that is up to the decision of the school. The interesting thing is, and I was surprised to learn this in the beginning, is that no school in Georgia, no public school is required to be accredited. There is no requirement that our schools are accredited. Additionally, interesting to learn, admission to our Georgia public universities and Georgia technical colleges does not require that applicants have graduated from an accredited high school. And so it kind of poses the question, if a student can graduate from an unaccredited high school and also gain admission to a Georgia public university, then what's the big deal about accreditation? And why is it deemed so important and such a focus point for so many families, parents, and the public schools that they attend? And the answers are really quite easy. Number one, in order to be eligible for the Hope Scholarship, students must graduate from an accredited high school. Also, many private universities, in-state and out-of-state, require accreditation. And many do believe, and justifiably so, that accreditation provides that extra stamp of approval that a certain level of academic excellence has been reached by that school. Now, these are some compelling reasons for accreditation, and given that we as members of the Georgia General Assembly are tasked with ensuring the quality education for all Georgia students, I believe it's a worthy task that we address some significant issues with the private organization that currently accredits our Georgia public schools. Our largest accreditor here in Georgia is Cognia, which is the following things. It is a private entity funded by Georgia taxpayer dollars by way of our public school systems. It is an independent, unelected entity receiving no oversight of any kind from the State Board of Education or the Georgia General Assembly. It is wholly and completely unregulated. It has no accountability to any elected body or state agency in Georgia. Cognia sets its own standards for accreditation review with no input and no guidance from any state agency or the Georgia General Assembly. According to them, they are also not subject to open records requests. Cognia does not allow, I repeat, does not allow for an external or third-party appeals process for any school system that may disagree with the findings of their review. The only path for appeal is within Cognia itself. The appeals process, like all other aspects of the accreditation process, excuse me, is controlled by Cognia. Additionally, Cognia engages in the practice of selling improvement services. Typically, this is teacher training and materials. They're in the business of selling these improvement services to the very same school districts that they are tasked with reviewing for accreditation. So essentially, three things are occurring. Number one, they are conducting the accreditation review based on their standards. Two, they are then rendering findings to that review, which often does involve some recommendations for improvement. And then three, they market and sell their own services, presumably to help the schools fix whatever problems Cognia found during the review. And folks, I believe this to be a conflict of interest. As members of the committee, I've just described to you an organization that wields a tremendous amount of power over our public school system and by extension, our students. Not the least of which of those is the fact that a loss of accreditation can jeopardize eligibility for the Hope Scholarship of our Georgia students. This bill, HB 506, seeks to address these concerns by simply providing some guidance and guardrails to this taxpayer-funded accreditation process so that Georgia does not abdicate something as important as the Hope Scholarship eligibility to an unelected private entity. The bill creates a new article in code that does the following. It defines what a recognized accrediting agency is. Let me pull the bill so I can, as I read along, so that you can find this as well. Line 70. Yes. Defines what a recognized accrediting agency is. On lines 88 to 105, it sets forth that the State Board of Education shall establish accreditation criteria, of which 65% is based on the academic quality of the school district, which includes but is not limited to student achievement, achievement gap closure, and student progress. And then 35% of that accreditation criteria is based on the financial efficiency of the school district and how state and federal funds are being spent by the district and how that impacts student achievement. On line 106, the bill outlines some additional parameters, such as, for example, you'll see on 106, the agency demonstrates the ability and the experience to operate as a recognized accrediting agency. On line 108, the principal purpose of such agency is the accreditation of public post-secondary schools, essentially meaning that is the main business that they're in. This is not a side gig for a company. Line 110, that such an agency has a voluntary membership of public secondary schools. Given that accreditation is not required in the state, that of course is important. And on 112, such agency consistently applies and enforces assessment criteria that ensure the courses or programs of instruction, training, or study offered by the school, including virtual instruction, are of sufficient quality to achieve, for the duration of the accreditation period, the stated objective for which the courses or programs are offered. On line 117, we start dealing with some of the concerns that we've had about the accreditation process and the current accrediting agency. Line 117 speaks to the concept of due process, allowing for the right to a hearing, a right to appeal, and the right of a school district to be represented by counsel if necessary. Moving on to line 140. This is an important part. It prohibits the agency from selling any services or materials to the school district that are intended to address any deficiencies or recommendations resulting from the agency's review. On line 147, this is an issue that actually we dealt with in Cobb County. This addresses the issue of open records. It's citing here in the bill that the accrediting agency must give full disclosure to the school system of any complaint or report that prompts an accreditation review, either scheduled or unscheduled. On line 159, we address the issue of no divisive concepts as currently defined in Georgia law, Georgia Code Section 20-1-11, that will not be used as one of the criteria for accreditation. In line 162, it establishes that the State Board of Education shall determine compliance with these provisions. And finally, on line 195, it provides for an appeals process, something that currently doesn't exist in this form, through the creation of an accrediting committee established by the State Board of Education in case there is a dispute between the school and the accrediting agency. And that would be regarding the results of the review. Number one, the bill outlines that the purpose of this committee is to work together, help the agency, the accrediting agency, and the school district to work together to come to terms. If that doesn't work, to move into mediation. Should that fail, or for any reason that the finding of the mediator is not satisfactory to both parties, that it could be further appealed to the State Department of Education for a final determination. Oftentimes I think that it helps. And I have found in the time that I've been down here in the legislature that oftentimes really good legislation is precipitated by an occurrence, perhaps something that happened that caused people to take a look at an issue. I will say that I do think that the concept of accreditation has kind of flown under the radar for quite some time, hasn't really been specifically addressed, and there is nothing in code currently that offers any regulations over the practice of accreditation. But I can tell you that in our situation in Cobb County, we did undergo an experience like this last year. And it was quite monumental for a lot of families. It was very concerning when our school system underwent an unscheduled accreditation review. We were about 18 months into our 5-year accreditation. We had one of the top school systems in the state, certainly one of the largest as well. And our school district underwent a special accreditation review. And the concern here was that the accreditation review was based on things that had nothing to do with academic achievement, nothing to do with the welfare of our students, nothing to do with the financial integrity of the school board, but was largely based on some infighting on the school board. And while that is not a good thing, and it certainly does need to be addressed, the concern that so many parents in our school district had was that we were jeopardizing the ability, possibly, of our students to qualify for the Hope Scholarship based on something that had nothing to do with the actual academic performance or the well-being of those schools. And it was quite troubling. In my district, I like to track the things that I get phone calls about. And last year, the number one phone call I got was, what is going to happen if Cobb County loses its accreditation? How could this possibly happen? So what we're seeking to do is place the oversight of the accrediting process into the hands of the Georgia General Assembly to come up with good legislation that protects our schools, allows for a good process of accreditation, but also an avenue for appeal should the findings not be amicable to both parties. I did want to did I introduce you, Gretchen? I apologize. I'm so sorry. This is Gretchen Walton. She serves as general counsel for Cobb County Public Schools. She works in their government affairs, and she's one of their compliance officers. She is very well versed on this subject matter and can also speak very well to the experience that Cobb had last year. So thank you so much for your patience as I kind of went through that. I certainly, Mr. Chairman, am open to any questions. And I know that Gretchen is as well. I may defer to her if necessary.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative, for the run through there. Let's we are lit up with questions here. Let me try to take them in order. Number one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for bringing this bill. I think it's been a concern that accountability as far as academics has always been an issue. 65 still seems a little high because right now is it 0 or are there percentages prescribed for different areas?
Right, and I certainly know that Gretchen can speak to that as well. We actually were at 80-20 when we were in subcommittee.
No, I mean
Oh.
in general, like the way the way Cognia reviews now. Are there any percentages they look at, or is it just kind
Those-
of
there-
open
there-
criteria?
There are no. They do have their standards. I think they have 24 different standards. They do publish them. They determine those. Cognia is a global organization. And so their standards are sort of, they use the same standards really across the world, across the globe. And no, there is no percentages. They're not looking at necessarily, they're not coming in this way and prescribing specific criteria for accreditation review. No.
Okay, quick follow, just real quick. I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, with Title I funds, because some schools, like a large district like Cobb, will have both Title I funds, at some of the schools. Will this impact that? Because I know Title I funds don't have to necessarily be used for academic achievement, but they can be used for community engagement, et cetera. Will that harm them? Will that harm the district and these scores, or no?
It should not. You're talking about? Are you referring to the
The
20,
financial,
20%,
the financial
the
piece.
35%
The
financial
35%
piece?
piece, yes.
My understanding is no. I would defer to Gretchen to confirm.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Representative. Next order, I believe, Representative Carter, number 10.
Thank you, Chairman. Okay, yeah, it's on. Thank you, and we talked a little bit in the subcommittee in which I shared with you that this was something that the former chairman had talked about, and some other school districts have had similar issues like Cobb has had. With some jeopardy in not being accredited and it not being academic related. So I absolutely appreciate you bringing these standards. But I think my concern is, or let me be clear, that if the accrediting agency that the school districts choose, because I think you said each school district choose their own, and that organization offers services, this bill, if I heard you correctly, would prohibit them from hiring those companies. So is there an opportunity, if with an option, not necessarily making it mandatory that they use them, but I don't know if we want to totally say, okay, if you found a problem, you can help them fix it, but giving the school districts an option.
Right. And my understanding when I asked some administrators about this is that there are other agencies out there that offer improvement services to school systems and training to school systems. I would also highlight the fact that what the bill says, it's not saying they can't offer any improvement services at all. They said they can't offer improvement services that are specifically related to findings, improvement. In other words, things that they are saying the school district needs to improve. That's wherein we see the conflict, the concern there being that you are injecting a profit motive, and we all want to think that's not going to happen, but you're incentivizing almost the finding of a deficiency there because the company that's looking for the problem, the company that's doing the review, will profit from finding a problem.
Okay, so and I'm really clear that that's the point that you were making. But what I'm asking is an opportunity to give the districts an option if they wanted to use that organization service. Not that I understand that there are other organizations that could provide the corrective action services, but if that school district wanted to use the same organization that found the issue that needed to be corrected, that this legislation would prohibit them from doing that.
Right, and I see your point there. I think also one of the issues to be addressed here could be, and actually from speaking to some school administrators, we heard this from some school districts, that there can almost be a pressure to use those services, if that makes sense. Meaning if they're the one that's diagnosing, that there is actually a pressure to utilize the services that Cognia is provided. That's feedback that I actually got from a superintendent. Again, it's sort of the situation where the person who's doing the diagnosing probably should not be the person that's also providing the remedy, if that makes sense. And I do see your option. I think this is a protectionary measure to ensure that once schools have gone through a special accreditation review and let's say problems have been discovered, that they are not going to be in a position, legally, they will not be in a position to be pressured by that accrediting agency to use their to use their services.
Yeah, I understand that, but that's not what my question is. If the school district it doesn't feel pressured, and they want to use the same organization because they provide that service, this legislation will prohibit them from doing so. And I'm only asking if the school district would have the option if they so choose, not whether or not they're pressured, but if they so choose, because maybe that particular accrediting agency may have the better option for them. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
And I don't think that's, and I hear what you're saying about it's a conflict of interest, but a lot of consulting firms, CBA firms, they do your audit, they may find a solution for you. So I'm just saying, I don't think I'm comfortable with it saying that they absolutely cannot use this agency, but give them the option.
Right. I do appreciate the concern. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Chairman. Representative, General Lady, appreciate you being here. I like your bill. A question for you, and I think it's good to kind of what you said about just a second ago. I think it's a good follow-up about not having having to buy their services or whatever else. Question is, if let's say Cognia, Sachs Cognia, whatever we want to call them, doesn't like this bill, and they go, we're going to pull out of Georgia if you do this. What's Plan B?
Right. I've had no inclination from them or anyone else that they have any intention of doing that. Okay. They certainly, I think, are accrediting schools in the state right now to the tune of, I think, $2.4 million a year. There's certainly all the incentive in the world to remain. Have there been conversations about other accrediting options? Of course, there have been, and I can't say for sure that we wouldn't, perhaps even this committee, be presented with options in the future. For now, there is a second accrediting agency, Georgia Accrediting Commission. It is smaller. Some schools opt to use that, and again, as I mentioned before, some actually use both. I guess they're doing a dual accreditation there as well. So I get where that. I hear where you're coming from on that. We've not had any indication from any of our sources, or certainly from Cognia, that they would have any intention of pulling out.
Okay, thank you.
Get on Vice Chair Hilton.
Thank you, Representative Earhart. Two quick questions. Great bill. Number one, we touched on the 65-35 split. If you could provide a little more color there, I'd love to see more leaning toward the learning side than the financial side, but a little more color there. And then you'd made an interesting comment about the school boards. In Gwinnett, we have a highly dysfunctional school board, and I don't want it to put our accreditation at risk. Does this I guess walk me through kind of how that plays into this process.
Right. You mean how?
Right.
And
would their actions put?
You'll notice there's a notable absence of board governance on here, but I want to be very clear that board governance is woven throughout this criteria. What we're doing is we're saying in that analysis, 65-35, academic, financial. Board governance is woven throughout that. Any board governance issues that are affecting that 65% academic and that 35% financial, that's going to be evaluated. What we're not doing, what we're saying that we shouldn't be doing in the accreditation process is jeopardizing a school system's accreditation based on something that's not academic or financial. Case in point, and I know my friend and colleague here, Representative Wilkinson, can speak to it. Well, we had some issues on our school board as well, and it was quite contentious. And it was indeed the impetus for our special review. Now, I'm not here to make any remarks on one side or the other at all. I believe it was very much political in nature, but what I can say is we need better ways to solve board governance problems when it involves perhaps political infighting. Who shouldn't be paying the price for that, right, are our students. And so what this, and interestingly, when I spoke to the Georgia Accrediting Commission, the second accrediting agency, they had different criteria. They said, we do not look at board governance as part. We only look at academic and financial. We don't get involved in infighting on school boards. We don't find that to be relevant to whether, in the end, who are we accrediting? Are we accrediting the schools? Or are we accrediting the school board? We're not accrediting the school board, right? And the whole purpose of accreditation is so that as these kids graduate and they get out, right, they're either entering into college with a degree they have confidence in, or they're getting ready to take their place in a 21st century workforce. No one's going to care whether or not there was infighting on the board, as long as those kids are graduating with the best possible education that we as Georgians can give to them. So I'm not sure if did I go around the world there to answer your question?
I understand. I mean, the board sets the overall tone and direction of the system, but yeah, I see where you're going with it. I appreciate the explanation.
Right.
Very
So I
helpful.
want to be clear that we're not eliminating any responsibility of the board to govern appropriately, but what we're saying is we're going to limit those things to how the board is dealing with academics and financial only. And we're going to leave the issues, the other types of infighting, for another process, not accreditation.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair. We have another question, number 16, Representative Glaze.
Yes. First of all, I do think that there should be standards of accreditation, and I am still shocked that this is more.
Yeah, may I tell you, I was shocked too.
Yeah.
It's like people kept saying, what do you mean? What do you mean we don't? I said, really, truly, we have no control over this. So I was shocked as well.
So I just wanted to ask a question. Lines 40 through 46 are accrediting agencies that have been crossed out. And so lines 52 through 59 are now the regional ones that we'll be using, and no longer any of the ones from 40 to 46. Is that my assumption? Is that assumption?
Rich, let me have you join me on this one just to be clear. Because we are now describing, and forgive me, the line.
We just updated the list. That was outdated
Right.
language.
Right.
For example, on line 40.
Would you join me here for just a moment? Thank you. I just want to make sure that we have a clear answer.
I believe that we were updating the list.
Right.
But
Right. Yeah, because on line 70 means an accrediting agency that meets the requirements of this part for recognition as a reliable authority.
Right.
Right, hold on 1 second here. Right, essentially because it's no longer limited to those.
Okay, so they are still those.
Yes,
they are
all
still
of those, absolutely, all of
Okay.
those, absolutely. It's just, that language was no longer needed because because it's redefined beginning on line 70. I would like to also point out that nothing in the, because I know someone asked this before, no one here has asked it, yes, nothing in this bill refers to private schools. This is strictly public schools that we're talking about.
Well, thank you. That answers my question, and thank you so much for bringing it.
Thank you. And one question before we entertain the motion from me, Representative. Let's talk about, for our members' purposes, that we accredit, or some systems accredit elementary schools and middle schools, some do not in the state of Georgia. In your eyes, is there a reason to accredit elementary schools and middle schools?
My former senator was Lindsey Tippins, and he often had opinions about that. I had more than one conversation. He did not see any merit or any necessity for accrediting elementary and middle schools. And probably primarily, I would imagine he felt that was because of the guidelines that they were already meeting, set by the Department of Education. So it was just sort of this extra thing. I think it perhaps makes parents feel better. It sounds good to say my school is accredited. I can tell you that when my kids, I homeschooled my children actually for the first 8 years of their schooling, and then they moved on to an accredited program. And I remember at the time, just as a parent, I thought, oh well, of course I want my child's elementary school to be accredited. It felt like it had a gold star on it. Therefore, but when you start getting into the criteria and you start looking at the criteria, the parameters within our elementary and middle schools now, you realize that extra level of accreditation really is not necessary. It really becomes important more at the high school level. And if those students are interested in qualifying for the Hope, or if they're interested in going to a non-public Georgia university.
And there's also, am I correct, that there are many, when I say many, there are more than one systems that are dual accredited by more than one agency. Is that correct?
Yes, there is. And I have not really found anybody that gave me a really good reason for that. They had the accrediting processes are a little similar. However, the criteria is different. One superintendent that I spoke to said he just felt like it helped him cover all his bases, just in case.
Okay, great. All right. Seeing no more questions, we have a motion to do pass. Do we have a second? We do have a second. Representative Wade, was that you down there, Representative Wade? Oh, we got a question then for discussion here.
Just asking about the rules about.
Let me get you to your microphone. There you go.
Just asking about the rules about being excused from the vote. If you need me to explain, I will. It's up to you. I can ask the lawyer if that's a good excuse or not. It doesn't,
No, you can ask to be excused, basically.
Okay.
And you are asking to be excused?
Yes.
Okay, and we will excuse you from
Thank
the
you.
vote then. All right, we've got, well, maybe everybody's going to jump out here as we're getting lit up in this discussion. All right, Representative Cox.
Thank you for the bill. Line 39 is referencing code section 2014-96. I don't seem to be able to locate that code section. Is that correct?
You're right. It won't be here. Which line?
39.
We might need.
Got it. Okay. Got it.
That is correct. Yes, and Representative Cox, primarily because there is nothing currently in code that represents this, so this is brand new.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Seeing no more discussion, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of a due pass of House Bill 506, say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. We have one. That motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Keep running with that one. Thank you. What we'll do at this time, and since we have the money man in the room, which is the most important man in the room when you got the money, we will let you step up and then be on our agenda. We are going to add House Bill 504. And Chairman Hatchett, if you would read your LC number when you get to the podium and cover your bill with us, please.
I wish it was that easy. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you all for hanging in with me and doing what we do this time of year. It just gets worse, right?
Yes.
What I've got today is a bill that some of you could probably explain it even better than I do or am able to do, but we tax our inventory in this state, and I'm specifically addressing what they call Level 1 Freeport, and this is your inventory that warehouses, large industry may have. It's taxed, but a lot of our counties exempt it from taxation, and it's called Freeport. Well, Freeport taxes and the Freeport exemption is involved in the QBE formula when it gets to equalization and local 5 mil share. I have a city school system that is fairly sure that they would have been receiving equalization over the last few years had the Freeport exemption amount been taken out of the value that when it's used in equalization, and I'm probably not explaining this for local fair share. So they've asked me to do this, and I'm trying to satisfy their wants and their needs, and I've talked to several of y'all, and y'all seem to think this is probably not a bad idea, because it makes the argument with my local school system is we have no control over whether we get to exempt this inventory value or not. The decision is made at the county level. Even your county schools and your don't have a decision in this. So to me, taking this out of the picture makes it a fairer calculation for everybody. So I'll try to take any questions.
Let me
and
do
then
this.
You can elaborate.
We do have some questions for you, Chairman Hatchett. If you would, read your LC number to make sure we're all working from the same
I've
one.
got LC 339456S.
Correct.
Okay.
That's what we're working from right there. And thank you for your attention to this. I see it as an opportunity for some school systems and to increase decrease their local fair share in some cases and increase their equalization members. But we have a question here, Chairman Chokas, number 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I've got basically 2 questions. The first one is, does the Freeport vary from county to county as far as the percentage?
The gentleman next to you is shaking his head yes, and I'm going to say yes because I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, and yeah, Chairman Jones may be able to answer this. Would this pertain to a fixed Freeport, or if you have an economic development opportunity to bring something into the community and they decide to increase the Freeport amount, does your bill address any changes in the local Freeport?
So it's my understanding, and please correct me if y'all understand this differently, that school boards, counties, cities apply for the exemption, or these industries apply for it annually. So it changes. The amount of the value of this would change every year.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
I think, did that answer? Okay.
I'll give members, as I don't see any other questions, a moment to digest their information. And Representative Chokas, you were first. At the appropriate time. Thank you. Representative Evans, number 8.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Chairman, for bringing this. So this bill is saying we would exempt them, we would exempt school systems whether or not they've already exempted the Freeport properties or whatever. So, yeah.
It's in the formula, and if the community allows for Freeport exemption, then it would not penalize the school systems because the county offers this exemption.
Does it remove Freeport from the calculation?
Yes.
Okay, so whether or not the school systems decided to exempt it, it just removes Freeport.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Puts everybody on the same level playing field.
All right. Another question. Representative Wilkerson, number 10.
No, Carter.
Oh, I'm sorry. Representative Carter's number 10. Sorry.
I'm smarter than he is.
My
Thank you,
error.
Chairman. Chairman, thank you, because there's always conversations about that 5-meal share and who gets the discounts and all that. But my question is, the school district that brought this to you, was anyone able to actually do some calculations to ensure this really would help them?
So the budget office has done that, and presently my school system, based on the numbers they have, the Dublin City school system, it would not benefit them with help me out, the equalization, but it would help them with the 5-meal share portion.
Okay, thank you.
And I can, Representative Carter, verify that Dublin City does not get equalization. That there, as equalization are for the systems that are not as wealthy as some, and so Dublin does not receive equalization dollars. Now that doesn't mean
that 2 years from now they might. You know, it's just, to me, this takes something out of the formula that the school systems have no control over. So to me, it makes it all, level.
And also, as Dublin is in Lawrence County does receive equalization. So the county does, the city does not as a school system. Yes. Let me see. We'll go to 15, then we'll come back here. Representative Wade.
At the appropriate time, I'd like to make a motion to pass.
Okay, we have a motion. Since I see no other questions, we have a motion. Second. And now, Vice Chair, a second in House Bill 504 here. Any other discussion, members? I know we brought this one out on you pretty quick. I'm going to give you plenty of time to look and think. Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Chairman Hatchett, first of all, thank you for this bill, and thank you for your support of public education and what we've seen in the amended budget this year and what we know is occurring in FY24. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, members, for your patience and for continuing to be here. Thank you.
All right, we are checking off good here. I think we are down to Representative Evans. Yours was tabled. We will bring yours back up. If you would move towards the podium there, and House Bill 537. And again, when you get there, would you please read your LC number for us to be certain we're on the right copy with you?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Colleagues, I bring you LC 491405S, the substitute to HB 537.
Got it. That's correct.
Great. And this is the literacy. This addresses literacy instruction certification. And we had some good conversation about this bill at the meeting earlier today, so I won't repeat all that. But I did want to give you a quote that was very helpful that one of the advocates provided to me. This is a quote from Sonny Perdue, Chancellor of our Georgia University system, from when he spoke on February 1st to the Senate Joint Committee on Education and Youth and Higher Ed. Georgia's teacher preparation programs and professional standards must also be aligned with evidence-based practices. There are at least 44 different programs used to prepare teachers to teach reading in Georgia. Most are not backed by evidence-based practices. So that's from Chancellor Perdue. So the purpose of our bill is we can't control what's taught in the schools of teaching, but we can control, we can't control, but we can ask, we can ask that our certification requirements are in alignment with evidence-based practices. And that is what House Bill 537 does. We had several separate amendments before, and the Legislative Council has kindly put this into one sub, so I just want to review that with you here. If you look at the page, there was some conversation we had in lines 29 through 35 talking about decal, and what we did is we decided, instead of doing the 20%, we just decided to do the annual requirements like we did with the Professional Standards Commission. So you'll see there, the underlined area, the department shall require teachers in all programs licensed or commissioned by the department to receive annual training on these evidence-based practices. And then we got rid of the waiver. That was some discussion that Chairman Dubnick had, and DeCal does have their own rules. That's something Legislative Council read out to us, and so if within their rules they want to provide some type of waiver, if a teacher already knows how to teach this stuff, that's their business. We don't need to codify that into law. And then in section 3, we
Go by
have
line item.
okay,
number.
yeah, I'm going to just jump ahead to line. These remain the same from the earlier discussion, but I'll just go ahead and say in 86 through 89, that just says that on the GACE test, the Georgia Assessment for Certification of Educators, that those requirements shall be aligned with developmentally appropriate evidence-based literacy instruction. And then on lines 78 through 81, that's your pre-K through 5. And that's your pre-K through 5 recertification requirements. Just says annual implementation. And then in 6, and then lines 82. Oh, wait, are y'all not with me? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'm
Just
sorry.
keep calling out your line.
Okay, good. I'm sorry. And then lines in 82 through 85, this is where we have annual implementation of these professional learning requirements for recertification for teachers in 6 through 12 in the teaching fields of language arts or English. And that is the bill.
Okay, thank you, Representative. Let's field a few questions for you on our changes. Number 2, let's go to that. Chairman Chokus.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Evans, online, I get, I guess, 106 to 108, and then specifically 107 and 108 instruction. You're taking out the development of fundamental reading skills, including phonetics, awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and reading comprehension. Why are you removing that?
That's because we moved the definition to earlier on lines 52 through 55. So we've defined evidence-based literacy instruction, and so that's why we took it out there.
Representative Chokus, do you have further follow-up?
Not at this time, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Let's go to number 12, Representative Cox.
Thank you for those adjustments. You did a great job on the bill. And just in, Mr. Chairman, in due time, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, we'll need to do a motion to pull it off the table first, once we get this discussion done, so just stand by. We'll go to number 14, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I didn't have the benefit of hearing this in subcommittee. I'd ask you, we heard a literacy bill earlier. I'm getting my days mixed, or hours, today, I think. Can you walk us just the difference between the two substantively?
Certainly.
And then one additional question. I guess I'm concerned that what are we teaching or testing on them now? And it's just, I guess it's broken, and so we've got to. I'm surprised the commission and other agencies haven't taken the initiative to fix it.
Well, one thing I want to say, that this is a companion bill to House Bill 538 that Representative Ballard is sponsoring.
Mm-hmm.
So this bill is just literacy instruction certification. So it's addressing this issue of the teachers. And then, of course, it's a companion bill to 538, which is doing the screening, the critical screening, in years kindergarten through 3rd. So both of them are talking about the importance, making sure that our state is aligned with science, the science of reading, evidence-based practices, research-proven practices for reading. So they can be viewed, together as well. And then I had a good article. I'll share it with you. I hope everyone in the committee has a chance to read that. It really is a little heartbreaking, and in my mind too, about the evolution, the changes that have happened in our schools of instruction on reading. And I'm not an expert, so I don't want to put words in the mouth of our. I don't want to claim to be an accomplished, educator or whatever. But I liked what Representative Ballard said earlier. It's like basically in education, there have been pendulum swings on how we teach things like literacy. And we've really pivoted away from phonics quite a bit. And one thing in the article, and I do encourage you to read it, it's like we went through a period of, and this is my understanding being a layperson, but we went to the whole language, which is exciting. It's like very immersive, and it's cultural, and you do inventive spelling, and you get kids to write in their journals, and it's a lot more fun. It's a lot more exciting. Kids are really engaged, so you think, oh, that's working, but unfortunately, the the science behind that has shown that's not as effective, and we really didn't understand. And I have one more point. When we were doing this research on this, we had a good talk with Dr. Caitlin Dooley when she was head of our DOE. And she was saying, this is kind of an unfortunate thing about research, is that the social sciences, we don't, like in medical science, you always have double-blind studies. You know, you have peer, you make sure you really have good research. And in our social sciences, we haven't always consistently done that. Like, we ended out adopting some practices without them having evidence-based, science behind them. And so we got away from that. And
I appreciate that. I guess I'm just concerned, and this is more of a statement than a question, that it's taking this body to pivot to that rather than...
It is very sobering, and as Representative Ballard talked about, you could, if you just go into any of your search engines on any of the newspapers, or you read, if you do science of reading, or you do evidence-based reading, or you will find so many articles. And as a matter of fact, I'd be happy to send with you. I have a Google sheet of just links to articles about the situation. There have been school systems that have, like in New York, I know there's a really great podcast about a parent who sued New York City schools because it's very expensive to have to go outside the system to teach your child to read. And I've shared with the committee earlier, that's what we did with our daughter, but we were able to do that, pay for an after-school tutor to go to summer school, and then if we do it right the first time. One thing, Dr. Teresa McProry, who used to be at the Deal Center, and she's actually left, but I remember when she spoke to us, and she said this at the Literacy Study Committee. I mean, there actually is a formula. There is a standard formula that everyone goes through. Every child, every person who learns to read, they go through these steps. And we just need to make sure we're teaching that early as we can.
Let me stop you there, Representative Evans. I think we've had enough discussion in the sense of I don't see questions. Can I entertain a motion to remove this off the table? Representative Townsend, second by Representative Carter. We're going to take this off the table with that motion then. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Light sign. Okay, it's off the table now. Any more discussion? I'll open it up here as you've read now that it's off the table. And Representative Wade.
Thank you, Chairman. And I just want to tell you I appreciate your efforts in caring about this issue and literacy and supporting our colleague Bethany on her other bill. And I like the fact that their companion, we have a separate situation with pre-K and our K-12. You tackle a good chunk of this, and I appreciate your efforts. Just personally, I know your passion, and it's recognized, and I'm sure the chairman appreciates it as well.
Absolutely. All right. Oh, you've got a question? Yes, sir. Number 16, is that right? Representative Glaze, there you go.
And this is hopefully in the future, Representative. Will our pre-K 4 be aligned with the literacy goals in this particular bill as we move forward? That's just a question for the future.
Well, actually, pre-K is a part of pre-K. The Professional Standards Commission does do certification for pre-K through 12. So we really are covered. We've got DECAL covered, and then we've got pre-K through 12 covered.
Yes, and that I know that they align, but my question was, will those literacy goals that we have here, is there a date where they're going to be fully aligned in pre-K 4? Because right now I know they don't. So I'm looking forward to the day that they are. Because
Right.
you and I know what happens. Our kids are going to be readers at 4 versus at 5 and 6 years old.
Right.
You and I
right.
know that.
Yes, that's true. And really, this just addresses the teacher instruction certification. That's all my bill does,
Yeah.
but that would definitely be a goal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Another question, number 1, Representative Wilkerson.
At the appropriate time, I'd like to make a do pass motion.
Okay. I believe this is the appropriate time. Thank you.
I'd like to make the motion to do pass this House bill. Oh, sorry, I apologize. Yeah, you're good. You're good, man. I was
Get a second in there.
I'll let you get in there. All right. Did you
Thank
get
you.
did you get your second in, Townsend? Okay. So we've got members. We have a motion of due pass, and let me make sure I get this correct here. House Bill 537. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, like sign. Hearing none, your bill passed. Thank you. Do your paper. Good job. Very good. Glad to see it. Hey, members, thank you all very much for your effort. We are adjourned, so get you a good night's rest. You've worked hard, folks. Keep it going. Thank you. There you go.